Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades, I hope you're doing well wherever you are. This is Kenya Revolutionary for another quick session. I won't stay here for long, ladies and gentlemen, because I know you have stuff to do. And it's the weekend. So, you're probably spending time with your family, your friends, and so forth. But while you're doing so, if you can take a minute, if you're tuned in, please, the first order of business is to like the video. Like the video. That's the first order of business, okay? And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe, share, comment, do all the good stuff. Share it with your friends and put the notification bell so every time I come in, you can always get me, okay? Now, I want to speak on this real quick. So, and if you're wondering, this is not just West Africa. My concentration today is not just West Africa, it's Kenya, as this channel is always about Kenyan politics and the world politics as it relates to Kenya. I told you, everything in politics, even world politics, is related, okay? Now, the topic today is kind of a continuation of what I was talking about yesterday about why I said a revolution in Kenya is inevitable. Sorry, inevitable, okay? It's going to happen, whether it's tomorrow or 10 days from now or 10 years from now. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Thank you very much, Gypsy Corner. Nice seeing you. Please do me that favor. Hit that like button, okay? Okay, so I want to mention this. I will start with what's going on in West Africa right now, okay? I was reading Sputnik news, which kind of reports about Russian-related news. And in West Africa right now, the Wagner group, remember Wagner, that mercenary group that is very active in Africa, used to operate in Africa in different places in Central Africa, Central Republic of Africa. And they are the ones who actually were giving support to the Sahel nations, especially Ibrahim Traore. And thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gypsy, for hitting the like button. Please, guys, follow suit as Gypsy did. Hit the like button. So, yeah, like I was saying, Wagner, they announced that they're leaving the Sahel nation. They are leaving Burkina Faso, okay? So they've been there for what, 2-3 years? When did Ibrahim Traore came to power? Was it 3 years ago, 2 years ago? But nevertheless, I think they've accomplished what they needed to accomplish. What do I mean by that? The aim of Wagner Group, which is a Russian mercenary group, which later on became part of an appendage of the Russian defense forces, okay? It's kind of now Russia is claiming them. Because remember, the reason why we have these proxy wars between different kind of mercenary groups with the Blackwater and what's the other one? I forgot the name. It's active in Kenya. It's active in Congo. The reason why these private security mercenary groups are very active in Africa is because if they violate, if they commit atrocities that violate, rules of engagement or rules of war, whatever the case is, the countries, the nation that these mercenary groups are what do you call it, registered to. This, not Wagner. You're right. Wagner is not in Kenya. I was talking about, there's another that starts with B. I forgot about it. It starts with B. I forgot. It's based on Washington, D.C. It's American one. Thank you for the correction. Wagner is not in Kenya. Yes. But is it Brent? I forgot it. Bancroft. It's called Bancroft. 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 It's an American mercenary group, okay, that is based in Washington, D.C. So what I'm saying is this: the reason why these superpowers always walk through these mercenary groups, these private military contractors, is because they are not responsible. They cannot be brought to justice if they commit atrocities. Let's say if they kill 100 people in the village, they cannot really be they operate under different rules. So the head of Bancroft cannot be brought to Ninio, cannot be easily brought to account for the massacre that they've committed, okay? Because these guys are really not, they're not representing any country, so to speak. But Wagner, after their mission in Central Africa, they have still deep roots in Central Africa, okay? Republic of Central Africa, okay? That then it's next to Congo. Actually, they're also in Congo. Congo is a huge place, and there's everything in there. Chinese have their mercenaries there. There's Canadian, American mercenaries, the Russian mercenaries. But let me go back to Wagner, okay? So according to Sputnik News, Wagner officially said that they're leaving Burkina Faso, okay? They have completed their mission. So what was their mission? To me, how I see it, my understanding of what they were doing there, they were going to help train the Burkinabes, the Burkinabe Ibrahim Traore's forces, okay, the Burkina Faso army, train them and equip them with military artillery that can, basically make them have the capacity to fight off the terrorists in the region. Remember, I told you these terrorists are being sponsored by the French and the Americans. Actually, it was just last night, basically, literally last night, when Burkina Faso had to intercepted 47 trucks that were disguised as Red Cross trucks, making their way from Togo to inside to Niger. And the funny thing, the reason why the government of Niger kind of grew suspicious of this is because this convoy was operating at 4 a.m., 3 a.m., which is unusual because most of these, humanitarian organizations, when they move their cargo during daytime. And the general of Niger just came out and accused the Red Cross to be working with the West to arm a terrorist group to destabilize the region, okay? So basically, I think they're going to kick out the Red Cross. And Red Cross is trying to have a discussion, is trying to have this dialogue with the head of Niger, the junta. But he's saying, no, you guys are playing dirty. You cannot claim to be, carrying out humanitarian acts here. But the 47 trucks included drones and ammunition, guns, and every explosives and all these kind of things that, the French and, of course, the West has been using to help the terrorists, destabilize the place, okay? So the Western African, these Sahel nations are really fighting, and, they are really up in the game. They are really making sure that the terrorism that has been happening in West Africa does not continue. And they're doing a pretty good job so far. Like I say, the Wagner group, the Russian, with the help of, with the blessing of Putin, their aim was to, help the military capability of Burkina Faso to be on par so that they can actually effectively fight the terrorists that are sponsored by the French and the West generally from destabilize the region. Remember, these terrorists are being trained and helped by the West. That's why Burkina Faso was like, this French, they were trying to use this. They were using these terrorists to actually take over those mining areas where they mine uranium, they mine the gold, they mine the oil. Those are the places, the oil-rich places and the mining places. The terrorists would take control of that. When Burkina Faso, when Traore came to power, 50% of the country was in the hands of these terrorists. Okay, and the funny thing, the French troops were actually on the ground helping to train the terrorists to use these things like explosives, guns, and all this all these drones. They were helping to train them, but they were using this excuse that they're there. The French are those French army. Why the French government was using this reason, saying that they are there to fight those terrorists, while in fact they were actually training and aiding and abetting and giving logistical know-how, strategies, how to destabilize the Ibrahim Traore's government and the Sahel nation, those three nations, Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. So anyway, Burkina Faso, Traore, the Sahel nations, they sought help from France. From Russia, from Putin, and Putin sent some troops there. Well, the mercenary guys from what do you call it, Wagner, to help out with the training and advanced technology, so that they can fight off these terrorists that were destabilizing the country. Now, the issue is right now the Sahel nation, as they are fighting to actually pacify, absolutely take out these terrorists. There are some countries who are still nearby that are actually still, working hard to continue the terrorist acts, okay? Terrorist, movements. For example, I don't know if you guys have heard in the news, there was a young Nigerian soldier who came out and made a video that went viral and announced that the head of the military, Nigerian military, are actually behind the terrorism that is happening in Nigeria, the Boko Haram. And some news reports are saying that the Boko Haram are actually being trained by in Pakistani terrorists, okay? So you can see that there's some governments, top military officials of some governments nearby that are used by the Western to actually, train these terrorists to destabilize the region. Because the aim is, as long as the area is destabilized, the West can always bring their troops and train these terrorists and mine while these people are busy fighting, and they'll use that reason, say that they are there to bring peace and help the government, assist the government to fight these terrorists, while they're actually helping these terrorists. And while the country is unstable and can't protect themselves from these guys, they use that to actually to take out, to mine their gold, to mine the uranium. And when you're fighting, you can't really dictate how much you're going to sell your uranium. You can't dictate how much you're going to sell your gold, because you're at the mercy of these people who are actually claiming to be providing security for your government. Okay, they're there to so that's the reason. Now, I want to get to the whole point why I'm talking about why a revolution, even maybe in Kenya, but Kenya might be different. I don't know. But the reason why I'm mentioning why the revolution had to start first as a military coup in West Africa. I told you, this revolution wave is going to move from west to central and east. I'll tell you why that will happen real quick. Now, the reason why I'm telling you this will happen is this. The reason why it started with military coup d'etat is this. Now, in the system, what, if you notice, most of these dictators, okay, what they do is this. They use legal means to actually legitimize their dictatorial rule. What do I mean? Like, for example, the president of Togo, he, this guy, this is funny, you can't believe it. This guy actually, he changed the constitution and said that the parliamentarians are the only people who can actually choose, who can vote for the president. Okay, of course, by doing so, he already compromised the whole parliamentarians, the MPs, members of parliament. That's how they get to do. Remember, in Uganda too. Listen, Uganda, Museveni. What did Museveni do? He changed the constitution every time to extend the presidential limits. Okay, because before I think it was you could only be a president for 2 terms. But when he came in, he said, the president can actually basically be a president indefinitely. He can go for whatever terms he can do. So, what these military juntas discovered is they could not actually. There was no democratic process. The system that was in place was already rigged. Just like I usually tell you guys, that the people who are talking about tuchukueni voters card and let's go vote and whatever the case is, I usually tell you that you cannot vote Ruto out and think that you're going to win, okay? Because what happens is the system is designed in such a way that the president of the day wields a lot of power that you can't easily you cannot take him out from that, that seat, that him as the head of state. What they do is they put systems in place, okay? That's why you see Raila and Ruto and all these people, they're trying to change the constitution. That way it legitimizes the illegal means of staying in power. That's why they came out with that BBI, because the whole purpose of the BBI was to change the constitution. To do what? To give them longer terms in power. Because let's say if they change the constitution right now and say that, okay, presidents should run for 7 years and that's it. That means Ruto is playing Chad. Is playing what? Okay, he's playing Chad in friendlies. Kick off soon. Okay, I'll watch it very quickly. I won't be here for long, so I'll finish up so I can watch Chad versus Kenya. So what I'm saying is this: they use this funny documents like BBI or whatever the case is, NADCO and all this nonsense. The whole point of this is to actually change the laws so that he can keep them in power for a long time. So what Ibrahim Traore and the gang actually noticed, they realized that the Wananchi do not have a say. They do not have, their will has been subverted. Democracy has been subverted because the people cannot actually speak out for themselves. They cannot actually vote out these presidents, because these presidents, once they go to power, they change the laws to make it harder for them to remove a president that they do not want. So what they said is they can use the military, them being members of the military, they can actually organize themselves and remove the sitting president, because a coup d'etat, a military coup d'etat, is something that majority of the presidents always, have to fall on it, because it's either the gun. That's a fall by the gun. Okay, they have no choice, but they have to leave. Now, here's one more point that I want to make real quick. The difference between what we are seeing with Russia and the West. The West, like I told you, and I'll make it very quickly so we can go watch that game. The West, they choose the most corrupt leaders to carry out their agenda. The agenda of the West is always to the benefit of these corporate entities. It's a corporatocracy, ladies and gentlemen. Corporations are basically usurping the sovereign power of individual nations. Okay? That's why I mentioned to you yesterday that the Federal Reserve is actually a private bank. IMF, World Bank, these are private banks. These are not national or UN backed banks. No. These are private banks. If you do your now, not to go too deep into that, what I'm trying to say is this: the Russian movement and the Burkina Faso movement, with the Sahel Nation movement, the new Pan-African movement that's happening in Africa. What they're trying to do is this. The aim was to stabilize this Sahel nation by giving them, helping their capacity to protect themselves from this Western-backed terrorist, okay? That was number one reason. Train them, make sure that they are okay, they are up to par, they have the instruments that they can use, the artillery, and the know-how, the training, so that they can actually defend themselves, because Russia cannot afford to actually have their troops in the ground forever. They learned that in Cold War. That's why they fell, because the Americans stretched them out, and their military budget became too big, and they were fractured. Okay, every member of the USSR started anew. That was a tactic. So the Russians are very clever. They learned their lesson from the Cold War. So what they did was empower these African nations, and guess what? Have a mutual agreement with them, such that they offer the Africans with the military capability where they can defend themselves from this Western-backed terrorists. Okay, then the Russian troops, once these guys can fight for themselves, protect themselves, they leave. And once they leave, it does not stop with the Sahel nation. Okay, so what Burkina Faso, Ibrahim Traore, and the Sahel nations, what they're doing is they're trying to recruit or spread this gospel of revolution. But they are very, 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 very keen to see who they align themselves with, or they rub shoulders with, or who they make their allies. They're looking to ally themselves with leaders who have the interest of their own people, because they understand if they prop up a dictator, someone who cares about themselves, that person will not last, especially if they are aligned with Burkina Faso and the Russians, okay? Because the West will basically expose that, put a propaganda on them, and remove them. You see, they're trying to have this propaganda against Burkina Faso, trying to say that, oh, Ibrahim Traore is actually using those gold for himself. He's been killing people. His soldiers are killing people. They're trying this propaganda, but it's not working. Why is it not working? It's not working because this guy is actually doing things that the people on the ground, the people of Burkina Faso, can actually see the benefits and the development that is happening in Burkina Faso. So the propaganda is not affecting the people. They're not buying into the propaganda. So what I'm saying is this. Once the Sahel nations stabilize the region, because if you look keenly, the next countries that are going to actually flip, probably it's going to be Nigeria. Okay? Because all these West African countries are being contaminated. And when I say contaminated, I'm using it as a way of describing the revolution. Okay? Because now you see Nigeria is one of the countries that are being used by the West to do what? To ferry all these terrorists and their weaponry. Because Nigeria is one of those countries that are still being puppets of the West. Tinubu and the gang and all those generals. Okay? Okay, I'm hearing that Gachagua is coming to Washington. Gachagua is coming to Washington, D.C. on the 13th of July to meet and greet. Don't forget to get your... I will check on that. I want to... Please let me know. I want to find out the venue. You say July what? July 3rd. I will definitely go up there. I want him to actually explain some things to me, okay? I will definitely be there. Washington, D.C. is not too far away from me. I'll hop in my, I'll take a rental and drive up there. So that's not a problem, okay? But yeah, so like I said, so what I'm saying is this. If you look at the West African nations right now, there's Togo is the latest one. Ivory Coast, we saw what happened, okay? And the Sahel nations are dealing with these terrorists. So what these West are seeing is happening is that this thing is catching up. So they have to go to the neighbor, next door neighbor, okay? Whether it's Benin, because Benin is where these terrorists, these Red Cross people are trying to move these 47 trucks that had military artillery to move to Niger, okay? So what I'm saying is this, all these neighboring countries, very soon, because I told you, it will be a domino effect, okay? We saw the domino effect is happening. It started with what? Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, then we saw Ivory Coast, then now we are seeing Togo, because Togo are saying, oh, after 30 years, we're not standing up for this. So you can see Togo is happening, okay? And now these terrorists are being pushed away and away and away. Now Nigeria is going to be the hub of these terrorists. And very soon, Tinubu will have to give in because the pressure, this whole neighborhood, the surrounding countries like Cameroon also, will also flip, okay? So I'm saying this. The aim was to give these Sahel nations the military capability to actually stand up and defend its borders and its people against the Western-backed terrorists. And after that, once the Wagner people have withdrawn and gone back to the Russia, they'll just maybe support them, okay? Kutokea mbali. But the Burkinabes and the Africans will take care of that. That's why you saw Ibrahim Traore went to Botswana and met with the head of Botswana, and you saw the president of Botswana after meeting Traore, he donned a military outfit, okay? Because he understands that these guys do not want Africa to stand by itself, because once you start standing by yourself, they start attacking you, okay? And you will see. It's so funny because I actually saw, I think, a video clip of a Tanzanian blogger who was saying that he's talking about the military might actually try to take out Suluhu. And I was like, huh? You see, because the fight here is they're desperately trying to get rid of any African president who is pro the people. And that's why Ibrahim Traore is not running around, he's looking to see, to align or ally, find an ally in every country, heads of state. Okay, the country that I was looking for yesterday was not Lesotho, was what's that country? That's led by a lady who is also taking the new not Botswana. Botswana is not a lady. What's that? Not Lesotho. There's another one. I forgot. I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting. But anyway, that's the whole point of this. This thing is being exported. That's why I ask, why do you think Ibrahim Traore, Kenya prisoner forced to fight for Kenyan forces forced to fight for Russia? I haven't heard about that. What I've heard about Ninio, people who are forced to fight if you're in Ukraine. Because remember, Russia, from the reports that I had, from what I've read from Russia offers you citizenship and free education or something like that if you join their military to fight for Ninio. I don't know about the prisoners. I haven't had any news about that. Once I see that is when I can comment it. You might be right. I don't know. Maybe they're being forced to fight for Russia. That might be true. I don't know. I haven't had that news yet. All I know is that if you're an immigrant, a male immigrant in Ukraine, you will be forced to fight for Ukraine. Ukraine is actually forcing its own citizens to fight for Neo because a lot of them are abandoning, they're running. Actually, I saw a video of some members of Ukrainian army who were deserting from their post, and the others, they had to be shot dead by their commanders because they were so angry while they're deserting, because it's hot right now in Ukraine. But yeah, about the Kenyan prisoners, I have no idea. All I've actually seen the video of some West African countries, Ghanaians and Ivory Coast, people from Ivory Coast who are joined to join the Russian army. They are making TikToks and all that stuff. They're fighting for Russian army. So I don't know about the Kenyan prisoners. I haven't seen it. You might be, you might be right. Maybe they're being forced. I haven't had those. I haven't read it. I will look into it in my next video. I'll talk about that. Okay. So, yeah, I'll look into that. I didn't know much about Kenyan prisoners forced to fight for Russia. I don't know about that. I'll see it. Um, Zelensky is a mini, is a mini, Zelensky is a mini Idi Amin. So, yeah, so what I'm saying is this: there's always a military element in every revolution. That's why, if you remember, when Zimbabwe, when Mugabe was being removed, remember, the people went to the streets in Harare and they refused to leave the streets. Then Mugabe called the army, and the army came in, and the army were with the people, and the army went in and told Mugabe, listen, your time is up, you have to leave. So that is the way. That's why I'm saying there's always an element of the military personnel being involved when there's a transition of power from the elites, the corrupt elite to the people. When the people want their power back, there's always an element of the military actually being part of it. So what I'm saying is this thing will come again. Like I said, there's somebody who just to reiterate that, somebody already made a video talking about the military might be involved in removing Suluhu. Suluhu herself, she said in one of her press conferences, saying that this coming election in October in Tanzania, the military might be involved in this. So you can see that, there's always a need for military to come in because they understand. And guess what? The West can easily use the Al-Shabaab, because Al-Shabaab is another Western-backed terrorist organization, okay? They're being used to destabilize the region. So if they want to destabilize Tanzania, it's not so hard. Al-Shabaab is right in the corner. They'll ship them down there and start terrorism. By the way, I heard there was a bombing in Uganda today. So I don't know what's that about. But I looked to it because I told you Museveni is trying to flip the script. He saw the writing on the wall and he's trying to endear himself with the Ugandans. He's trying to reject the West. Might be too late, maybe not. I don't know. So we might see how this happens. So in Kenya, the same thing, just to finish up so I can bring it home so we can go watch the game. In Kenya, the same thing might happen, okay? We might find ourselves when we have people go to the streets, as there's a call for people. You can hear people are talking about going to the streets. I know the Wamunyoros are working so hard. Hi, cousins. Hi, cousins. Hi, cousins. They're working so hard with this tribal nonsense, but this thing cannot hold. Like I told you, the tribal division, tribal politics, ethnicization of politics cannot sustain this corrupt system of governance, because there's a wave of revolution happening across Africa, and the bullshit is not going to be tolerated. This tribal bullshit is not going to be tolerated. People know that these leaders are bullshitting, okay? You can talk about tribes all you want, but if all tribes are suffering under this regime and under this corrupt political system, all that stuff goes way away. So like I said, this might also bring in Kariri once the people go to the streets and decide Ruto must step down. The military might come in to either oversee the transition process, or they might have, they might take over just to, for a short while they, oversee the transition, okay? Or maybe if Tariri wants to become a dictator, he might stay there and stay there for like 5 years, or whatever the case is, or turn into a Museveni. So you never know. But the first step, one thing is guaranteed, is that a revolution is going to happen in Kenya. Anyway, I just want to talk briefly about that. Please make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment, and do all the good stuff. And put the notification bell, and I'll see you later. Let me go watch the game between Chad and Kenya. Hopefully Kenya wins. Ama namna gani? Tuonane siku nyingine tomorrow, or maybe later today. Ama, peace and blessings.